Okay, welcome everybody out to video number 3 on the free Takt University course. This is going to be all about how the systems tie together, meaning the lean systems that we're talking about, anything from Takt to Last Planner to CPM. I'm going to talk about how all of them move together and really work quite nicely. And I think you're going to enjoy this. And I'm going to use kind of a sketch here. So if you look right here, you'll see that I've just got some red lines here. That's going to symbolize the production plan itself. And I think it's going to work out pretty neat. And I'm excited to share this content with you. So here we go. One of the first questions that I want to address is, so how does Takt fit into these other systems? And I'm just really glad you asked that, because Takt really becomes our base. Let me go ahead and make a case for Takt by saying that Takt is, meaning at the planning portion of it, it really organizes your project properly in a time by location format. Now this time by location format cannot be underappreciated, overemphasized, undervalued, meaning it's super crucial, because this becomes your base. Because when you're in a time by location format, meaning that you have time on the top of your production plan and location on the left, now you can see movement, meaning you can actually see how trades are moving on a flow through your production plan, which is absolutely crucial to everything that we do. It's a 4D production plan, and that, because it shows movement, allows us to see the train of trades flowing across the train tracks, or the train of trades flowing across your zones, and we're able to steer that train and control that train because, again, we can see motion. And because we can see motion and how the overall train is interacting with the site, we can recover from delays. So one of the first points that I want to make is that when you have Takt, literally you have a location-based schedule, because obviously you have the location. You have all of the best information from Gantt charts. You have your line of balance, because obviously you're showing the line of balance in the diagonal. You're able to export all of the critical items from CPM. Anything that came from CPM that was good, for instance, improving the critical path to become a critical chain, is looped in. And you also have the theory of constraints, you have lean thinking, you have other lean tools looped in here, and you have production theory. It's all looped in together. So when Takt is your base, like, you've literally looped in like 8 of the most key lean thinking principles in construction all at once, which is absolutely fantastic. Just in case you want to take a deeper dive here, and what I'll do is show these to you one by one. So again, you have your location-based schedule. You have your activities shown in a way that we're used to from left to right, like we do in Gantt. You have your line of balance for all of the phases in the Takt format itself, right? We're able to see the path of critical flow or critical chain, which is an actual working method of doing a critical path. So we have the best from CPM. You're able to see inside the production plan either trade bottlenecks or zone bottlenecks. So we have the theory of constraints. Lean thinking says that we're able to see the overall production plan in a lean system visually. So that's automatically in line with lean thinking. Lean tools like one process flow is what we do inside the work package. Being able to go to the Gemba, getting trade input, pull plans, like those are all looped in. And then production theory, the concept where we're not just going to say, hey, this is what the client demands, but actually we're going to create a production system that will get there using Little's Law and the Little's Law Takt calculator. That pulls in your production theory. There's a lot more to it, but my bottom line is that if you use the Takt Production System, you have your base. And the Takt Production System really is a combination of milestones, one-off activities, phases and zones, your trains of trades, interdependence ties which tie those trains together, secondary flows like procurement, and then your critical chain or your path of critical flow. And then you can also add buffers if you wanted an 8th category, but I usually use buffers in the one-off activities or put them in the train itself. But the bottom line is that these 7 or 8 components are what make up your overall base. Highly visual production plan that actually works and incorporates lean into all of the thinking. And it's quite remarkable that this can be our base. Now let's go ahead and look at pre-construction planning. Now this is a simple one, but pre-construction planning is called the first planner system. This is where the entire plan is made, and this is where the team basically supports the last planners. So I'm just kind of having fun with my sketches over here. I put a little picture of a chef in our book, Elevating Pre-Construction Planning. We made the analogy that the production system that you're trying to create is like your cake. You have to know how to make the cake, and you have to know who eats the cake, the trade partners, right? So if you want to make a killer production plan, you've got to start in pre-construction, because as they said in the book, How Big Things Get Done, projects typically, well, this is a slight modification, but projects typically don't go wrong, they start wrong, right? So what we have to have is a really nice production plan created, but do it in the pre-construction phase before we actually start on site. This is a part of the first planner system, and I'm not going to go through this in too much depth other than to say that there is a timeline before you hit your NTP. There's a timeline that you need to hit with the right solutions in order for you to have the right planning and to create that Takt plan as your base. And that's crucial, because it has to be done before you start. Now, the picture here that I'm showing you is just an example of a production plan where in pre-construction we're literally going through this and saying, hey, your CPM is showing this. If we optimize it with the right number of zones, we can gain this much time. If we go to different takt times, we can gain this much time, right? We're analyzing the major constraints. We're analyzing zone bottlenecks. We're analyzing trade bottlenecks. We're analyzing zoning opportunities. We're really digging in. We want to have done this work before we actually start, and we really need to prepare to start strong and have everything that we need 100% validated. Okay, so how does CPM tie into this overall system? I'm glad you've asked. And I'm not trying to be overly dramatic. I don't get any benefit by doing so. Let me just be honest. If we can't get rid of CPM, but we still want to do the right thing, then what you might have to do is use CPM as a contractual schedule, summarize it at a level 2 for your clients, but at least don't use the theory. The theory of CPM is increase work in progress, don't have buffers, rush, push, and panic people. Like, it's really bad theory. And so if you have your Takt plan as your production plan, and you've properly planned the project, and you have to use CPM, then you would do it as a summary only. So this is page number 145 from the book Takt Planning. And I give you an example in the book of where, look, if you have a macro and norm level Takt plan, you can do what's called a phase summary, which is my preference, or a sequence summary. This is probably the most detailed I would go. And you can use it as an as-built schedule, but CPM really should not be used to plan or execute work. But I don't particularly have any problems if it's used basically as a summary or as an as-built schedule, as long as we don't use the theory behind it. So again, if you have your production plan, your CPM would only be a summary. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about last planner. This is probably my favorite. For last planner, you will have certain scheduled deliverables, notably the look ahead, weekly work plan, and day plan, in collaboration with the trades. That is absolutely crucial, and with the right meeting system. So if you have your Takt plan as your production plan and your CPM summary, and the CPM summary is fairly neutral, right? It's just for the owners. We're not making any decisions based off of it. You can easily filter out from the Takt plan the look ahead plan, the weekly work plan, and the day plan, all on a flow. Let me explain this real quick. First of all, when you do your pull planning, right, and you're going through and figuring out your sequence with your trades right up to a milestone, that pull plan is actually looped into the sequences themselves and then run on a cascade through the Takt plan. So not only is the norm level production plan already a last planner system in collaboration, but then when you filter it out for the look ahead, it maintains that trade flow. When you filter it down into the weekly work plan, it maintains that trade flow. And so everything as a part of the production system actually works, right? So if you don't do that, especially at the weekly work plan level, like if you didn't use Takt, you would be spending countless hours with the foreman creating that from whole cloth. When in Takt, you can simply filter that down, and it's quite remarkable. So let me go ahead and show you this. This is probably my favorite image of all time. And yes, it's one of the ones that I created, so I might be just a little bit biased. I did steal Kate's content to do it, but I put this together myself. So your master plan, which will be your macro level Takt plan, is where you create your contractual promise and your milestones, right? Then, based on the milestone, you'll do a pull plan like I just said. And that pull plan will become one sequence in your overall production plan. And then literally you'll cascade it down to the other ones on a rhythm, make sure that you have good diagonal trade flow and you're jamming. When you do this, you'll also select the right number of zones for that phase, and you'll gain buffers so that you have buffers ahead of your actual contractual promise. From there, you filter out your look ahead. That's where you make work ready and you find and remove roadblocks. And then you'll filter out your weekly work plan as well. All of them, again, and I can't make this point too often, in the macro, you have diagonal trade flow, diagonal trade flow. The look ahead, you'll have diagonal trade flow. In the weekly work plan, you'll have diagonal trade flow. You can't say that for Last Planner paired with CPM. And so Last Planner is great, meaning like the systems fit together like peanut butter and jelly, because it's simply like an add-on. It's almost like Takt is like a Ford F-150, and then all of these other systems, you're like, okay, I want the off-road kit. Okay, I want the light package. Okay, I want the camper. You know, you're adding things onto the base unit. Okay, so that's primarily the systems that I wanted to talk about, but let's talk about advanced work packaging up here as well. You've probably heard about advanced work packaging. It's not my favorite thing, but it's not my enemy. It's not like CPM. If you pair advanced work packaging with Takt, it actually works pretty well. When you pair it with CPM, it's a nightmare. The gist around advanced work packaging is to align the supply chains, to consider systems-based thinking, not just zone-based thinking, meaning like if you're installing pipe, what's the path of construction? So instead of just a path along zones, they utilize a path of construction that understands that system-based thinking. It relies heavily on building information modeling, and the idea is to organize by work packages. So let me do a little bit here. You see we have our typical CPM, our typical production plan, our last planner, but where does advanced work packaging come in? Well, first of all, you will have engineering, procurement, and construction work packages as a part of how you organize the overall production plan. You can see here that in addition to having the production plan, we also have aligned the supply chains, and we have good visibility there. The path of construction matches our critical chain, so those are compatible. And one of the main things that I want to talk about is if you really want total quality management, you're going to create work packages as a result of all of your planning for the actual trade partners themselves. So this is quite nice. I went ahead and took out some images from some of the things that we're doing at Leanbuilt for this, starting from left to right. When we're including the best from advanced work packaging, we're doing what's called a little build your Lego sheet. That's where you will actually insert in here your pull plan and production system. You'll analyze the key information. You will come down here and plan your actual activity and make sure that in reference to Kingman's formula, you have everything planned properly. Then we create a visual of the do's and the don'ts for the scope of work, and by the time we're done in our planning, we make sure that all 17 of our pre-kit items are 100% ready before trades mobilize on site. So if you really want to like dig into advanced work packaging, the key here is to make sure that you are preparing that work package for the trades, and that all of your supply chains are aligned in the right way to support that work package. Let's do one last one, which is Scrum. I love Scrum, by the way. Taught to me by Felipe Engineer. This really helps you understand lean thinking and how to work as a team, and then it will give you a Scrum board. And what's really neat is, and one of the main reasons I like it is that when you have your production system and you find problems, those problems need to loop into the Scrum board, and then the team needs to start working them from left to right to get rid of them. So Scrum can be used to rally the project management team in clearing problems and roadblocks for the field team, using the Scrum board and the meeting schedule. So it's really quite nice. I pulled in pages 182, 183 from the book Takt Planning, and basically want to make the point that hey, if you go do all this work, plan the next day, communicate it to the workers, you should have a daily stand-up. And that's where all your roadblocks come to. And those roadblocks come on into the backlog, and then they go from your backlog to your sprint backlog to the to-do column, to the doing or in progress, to the check process, and then to done. And so what the office team is attempting to do is get any R5s, roadblocks, information, major constraints figured out for you ahead of impact from the work. And so that's how Scrum ties in. And what I want to do is make the case here that all of these systems can tie together. So when you're looking at, like, let's say Takt, that's your base. Pre-con planning, that's when you actually plan your base. CPM, it should be used as a summary. Last planner, it's how we get it to the trade partners. Advanced work packaging, this is how you package work for the install. Scrum, this is how you solve problems. So they're not all separate systems that are like some other technology. They all work together as a part of lean project delivery. So this is the end of the video. What I wanted to communicate basically is how they all tie together, so that then in the next video I can talk to you about CPM and the truth there, and then we're going to get right into creating your own macro level takt plan. I think you're going to love this. On we go.